Bryan Ashby is going to come and speak. Bryan is president of Carolina Cotton Works and graduated from University of South Carolina in 1990. Bryan became a CPA and worked in public accounting and in warehousing, apparel manufacturing, and distribution for the first 5 years of his career. Then I don't know what happened after that, but in 95, Bryan and his brother Hunter, and they're joined their legendary father Page, the late Joe Gino, and reunited in Gaffney to start Carolina Cotton Works. At that time, CCW offered garment dyeing services as well as tubular bleaching and finishing of circular nets. During the 2000s, the company exited the garment dyeing business and entered piece dyeing and evolved into becoming one of the most diverse dye houses in the U.S. with its technical capabilities for dyeing many fibers, surface finishing, and a blend of both open width and tubular finishing skill sets. With the unfortunate passing of Page in 2019, Bryan serves as company president as he and Hunter continue to guide CCW and reinvest for the future. Now, during his free time, Bryan enjoys time with his family. We got to explain this as a boat captain for his son's high school fishing team. So please welcome Bryan.
Well, let's just get one thing straight right now. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the concept of competitive bass fishing. Okay, so it's a phenomenon that's growing a lot in the Carolinas and Georgia. But yeah, my son has participated for 4 or 5 years in competitive bass fishing. I'm a boat captain, which means I own a boat. And we have to be on a lake before sunrise, somewhere in South Carolina or Georgia, 7 or 8 times a year. And it's from sun up until 3-ish, 3:30 in the afternoon. You weigh in your best 5 fish, and then whoever caught the most weight wins. And it's a cumulative tally throughout the season. Try to qualify for a classic, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, that's to clear up the bass fishing thing. That, by the way, Poston guys, thank you for cornering me at my the last time I was here. I believe it was Charles cornered me and said, "Hey, can you want to be a speaker at one of these events?" What am I going to say? No. I said, "Sure." "Can you come to the next one?" "Well, sure." "What do you want me to talk about?" "Well, it doesn't really matter." So I said, okay. I guess I'll talk about kind of who we are, what we do, and everybody here's got a pandemic story. All the businesses here have some sort of pandemic story, I'm sure. We're no different. Our story might be a little bit different than someone else's, so I'll describe a little bit of that. And it was through that experience of going through this pandemic, staffing issues, the business challenges, our customers' issues, that caused Hunter and I to, what we refer to now, basically double down on our business. And I'll talk about some of those investments and why we made some of those choices. And I would like for this to be very interactive, so please raise your hand, interrupt, shout, ask questions or comments as you like. And Paul, by the way, I'm really pleased to know that the McCarter Coalition or plan in Clover, South Carolina, lets someone else into the textile business. Paul's still here, but
I'm still here.
Okay. So today, what I'm going to plan to talk to you guys about is what is CCW and what's the difference between CCW and Carolina Cotton Works. Who is CCW? Pandemic story, its effects, labor challenges, and how it goes down. This is just a little aerial view our facility. We're in Gaffney, South Carolina. It's about 45 minutes south of here on 85. It's a great drive if you want to make it sometime. We have 175 people at this facility that work full-time. It's 120,000 square feet. We've added onto it twice on 14 acres just off the interstate. So can I have a show of hands for folks that have you worked in a jet dye house before? I want to understand if you've been around jet dyeing and finishing. Okay, a few. So we are what's referred to as a jet dye house. We don't knit, we don't weave. What we do is put color on, and we add finishes as necessary. I was speaking at an event that I got invited to, I think by maybe Cameron or his uncle or someone. Remember when I spoke at the, is it Kiwanis or Rotary Club? I spoke at the Gaffney Rotary Club. I got invited, you know, times are hard, speakers are rare, so they found me. And they said, hey, come and talk to our members at the Rotary Club there and tell us about what Carolina Cotton Works. Y'all been around for 20-something years. Nobody knows what y'all do. Y'all just down in the woods in Gaffney, and you need to come out and tell us about your business. So I did, and I thought it would be kind of funny. There's because Cameron and, you know, they've got that Hamrick Mafia over there in Gaffney. So they've got Lyman and Carlisle and all these other guys that run the town. And so I began to speak to just some members of the community who are not in the textile business. And I said, well, best way I can tell you is we actually buy some fabrics from places like Inman Mills and Clover Knits and well, Hamrick Mills. And we get what they make and we make it sexy because we add color to it. We make it soft and we make it do all these things. And I remember Cameron's uncle said, well, we all learned how to color when we were in kindergarten. So, well, you tapped me right back. So anyway, all in good fun. In jet dyeing, these are, and I've got a couple slides of what we mean by jets, but we piece dye fabric, typically in the neighborhood of 1,000 pounds to 2,000 pounds at a time. And we've carved a little bit of a niche for ourselves here in our ability to do lots of different things. You can see on the list here the various fibers that we dye: cotton and spun and filament, polyester, monoacrylic, nylon, and wool. And from a fabric finishing standpoint, we have two basic pipelines. We have an open width pipeline and we have a tubular pipeline. Open width consists of your wovens, warp knits, and circular knits that we slit open. And tubular finishing is just that. It's circular knits that are finished in various body sizes. We also have napping and brushing and other kinds of surface finishing, and we apply some chemical products for DWR purposes and flame retardants. And as Charles was mentioning, the company was unearthed by our late father Page Ashby and late family friend Joe Gano in 1995. And this is a picture from '97 actually. And the purpose of this picture was that machine was built by Scholl and SCHOLL. And it was the first of its type in the U.S. And they wanted to come and photograph the machine, run an ad, put it in the back of Textile World magazine, or was there a Bobbin magazine? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they wanted to put it. They wanted to take these pictures and run an ad in one of these textile magazines, and they did that. And so it's just been kind of a keepsake for me. And so we are still a family business. Hunter and I basically run it together. We got a bunch of teammates, like I said, back in Gaffney. But this is a cool picture that we took last year. the picture on the left shows when we installed that machine, the three of us. And in the picture on the right, I'm literally standing in the same exact position on our floor 25 years later with my son to my left and Hunter's sons, 2 out of 3 of them, to his right. So that's actually what we refer to as die machine number 1. And so I think we now have 17. Does that count right? Yeah. And so, excuse me. Very, very gradual progression to go from 97 when we added our first machine. We've taken a few out recently, which I'll talk about. But it's been a good ride to be able to go through this evolution of growth. And so I came up with a brief timeline of what we went through, probably very similar to what a lot of you all went through. In January of 2020, customers started calling and saying, I don't know what's going on. My customers have turned off. My customers have canceled orders. My customers are backing us up. We can't get, employees aren't coming in, and all this. It was just a crazy time. And so about a month after all that started, we had traditionally been a 12-hour, 7-day operation, and we found it necessary, and this is 6 months removed from the passing of our father. And so it was a difficult time when he had that battle in 2019, and then just shortly right after that, this pandemic thing hit. And it was just a crazy time, and talk about a period of uncertainty, that's what it was. So we downsized mostly through natural attrition from a staffing standpoint. And then fortunately, we happened to be at the right place at the right time when the mask and the gown frenzy began in March of 2020. That's what I call it, because that's exactly what it was. We've got Stacy Bridges here, and he heads up all of our sales efforts. And I remember him getting real creative on developing, the phone literally started ringing all the time. And we picked up more business prospects in that month than the prior 5 years from people that we've never heard of. They were just coming out of the woodwork because they wanted to get into the mask business or they wanted to get into the gown business. And so we had to figure out, yes, it needs to be level 1, level 2, level 3, what are all these things? And so I'm sure most of you guys went through a lot of that too. But that kind of business and those kind of creative efforts carried us through 2020. And then in January 2021, we saw our traditional business come back rapidly. And it was almost like a whiplash effect. So Hunter and I said, okay, the good old days are back. And so let's take this thing, let's get back off of 5 days and go back to 7 days. Let's staff up. We need to hire about 25 people. And so between February of 2021 and April of 2021, we did just that. Or at least we tried to do just that. We went through about 100 people for a net gain of about 0. And so we had to gather all of our people together again after we charged them up and said we're going back to 12-hour shifts. We go from April to June and we gather all our people again. We give everybody a bonus, not because we were having a great time, but basically to say we're sorry for trying this, but we need to take it back down to 8 hours. We have the business, we have the demand, we have the equipment. We just can't find enough people to make 4 good teams. So rather than send all you guys out there onto a football field with an 8-man team, we feel like we're going to play basketball with a 5-man team and at least have a chance. And so that was received well, but it was hard. As hard as business has always been for us, to see the opportunities in front of us, and to know that we have the firepower to get it done, but the inability to hire people, and
you know, frankly, it just made us turn business away. First time at that time it would have been 26 years, first time in 26 years that we really had to say no to a large chunk of demand in business. But that's what it was. And so how do we plan to overcome that? And how do we plan to change? Are we just going to be a shrinking company going forward? How can we change this? Are we going to let this business go to our competitors? So what we did, Hunter and I met and decided that we need to figure out ways to take some of the physicality out of the jobs. Working in a dyeing and finishing operation is not a desk job. It's not a 70-degree, kind of office kind of situation. It gets hot in the summertime, and there's a lot of physicality to it. It's not necessarily like working out on the interstate, but it's good old-fashioned work. And we found that we were competing with, the outlet mall, the hospital, the government buildings and whatnot, not to mention the fact that our government was paying people to stay at home all those years, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. But we just decided we've got to figure out a way to double down on increasing our throughput to push through this plant what we used to do in 7 days, but we want to now do it in 5 days. And so a few examples, not all of them, but a few examples of what we invested in to make ourselves a little bit better. The picture on the left is a typical pallet of 50-pound bags of soda ash. Soda ash is a product that we use in peace dyeing to make the color bond and become part of cotton fiber. And for the first 26 years of being in business, we dosed soda ash into our process manually by machine would alarm, and we would have to take a pallet of soda ash to a dye machine and bust open a pallet, bust open these bags. If it calls for 225 pounds, is the equipment going to get 4 bags at 200, or is it going to get 5 bags at 250? Oftentimes you don't really know. And it's 100 degrees, it's hot. This was easy pickings. Once Hunter discovered that there was a vendor that was willing to manufacture a liquefying and dispensing system, we could start buying, instead of the 50-pound bags of soda ash and the manual task of mixing them at the machine in a side tank with water and dispensing in over time, that this system right here allowed us to buy 2,500-pound super sacks of soda ash, drop it into this auger, which can make a liquefied solution of soda ash, keep it in this on-demand tank, and dispense it, because we have networking that talks to all the dye machines, and it would be dispensed automatically to the dye machine on time, accurately, and no operator involvement whatsoever. So that was kind of a big step for us. It was expensive because you're dispensing to 17 different dye machines. But when that system started running, operators realized, wow, that just took a real pain in the ass off my day-to-day activity. So it was a real win. This is a picture of that old dye machine 1 that I told you had all the sentimental value. Well, this is us taking it out, because even though it was sentimental to us, we needed that real estate. Why do we need that real estate? Because we have invested in a different type of machine, a different style of machine that allows us to dye not just cotton and polycotton like this one does, but filament polyester. Think about automotive interiors, think about team sports activewear, team sport uniforms, things of that nature. And you can also think about polycotton aprons. You can think about 100% cotton t-shirt. All of these things can be dyed in a machine like this. Instead of having different machines of different architectures, these machines we dye polyester in, these machines we dye cotton wovens in. So we've started adopting, and we now have 4 such machines. 2 of them are 1,000-pound machines, 2 of them are 2,000-pound machines. And so we took out this 1997 model that had some limitations on what it could do and put in a 2,000-pound machine that had much more greater flexibility, and we could talk about some sustainability things as well. Another thing that we did was, years ago, we put in an automated chemical dispensing system. So we are dispensing, how many chemicals? 24. We have 24 different chemicals. Some are in bulk tanks, some are in totes. But we have 24 chemicals that come into our plant that get dispensed to a total of 17 different dye machines and 8 finishing machines. And so, I think that's right, 8 or 6, 8 finishing machines. So, oftentimes on a startup day, you have a whole bunch of calls for large amounts of chemical. And we have one machine, one system that weighs that stuff and dispenses it to the call-it machine. And to make the jobs easier and to make the jobs more efficient and to get more done in a 5-day week, we doubled up on our ability to dispense chemicals. So we built this room on, we installed yet another system. These 2 systems talk to each other. Well, they both talk to the same destinations, and they work together. If one's busy dispensing, the other one picks up and dispenses. So this is an example of how we are trying to stuff more through there in 5 days than 7 days with less wait time, and obviously no operator intervention. And this just gives you kind of a little bit of a bird's eye view of the latest new machine, one of the latest new machines that we've added. It's 6 strands, between 1,800 and 2,000 pounds per dye load. Any questions at this point? Am I okay on time?
We're a little over, but we started late, so
Okay.
we're going to let you go.
By the way, the only thing standing between you and lunch is the guy in the blue hat who speaks after me. Going back to the physicality, taking physicality out of the jobs. We handle a lot of knit rolls. These are generally 40 to 50 pounds, and traditionally we had always bagged these rolls manually. Tear off a perforated bag off of a roll, put the roll into the bag, put a twist tie around the end of the bag, put a sticker on the outside of the roll, pick up the roll, set it over here, go back to running the machine. So this is one of the investments that we did. We want a machine operator to operate a finishing machine. We don't want them bagging rolls. So we found a company that could help us accomplish this. So again, taking the physicality out of the job and allowing operators to focus on quality of fabric and efficiency of their workday. And then this is kind of like the really big system that we put in that we're most proud of. In our open width finishing, we've got 4 finishing lines. And historically, each one had an inspector, had a doffer, perhaps 2 doffers. And those people were taking off seam cuts, taking off sample cuts, and bagging the rolls, twist tying, the whole 9 yards. Now we've got an inspector at each of those 4 machines, essentially. And this system now takes all the sample cuts and seam cuts automatically, wraps the rolls, puts it on a common conveyor, and discharges through a wrapper, and then labeling, and then unloads off to preset destinations with its other rolls. So you literally have 4 finishing machines feeding different types of fabric through the packaging line all at the same time, and it eventually all gets sorted out like you see here in the video. But we were able to take inspectors let them do their inspection job, and we were able to displace all of the jobs of simply cutting off seams, taking sample cuts, folding them up, putting a piece of tape on the roll, picking up the roll, tearing off the perforated bag, putting the roll into the bag, again, taking the physicality off of those operators and assigning those operators to do more productive work. Again, this is another example of how we just decided that we wanted to double down, make the jobs easier. This was our highest turnover job in the plant, and it's the one that we attacked first. This is in our conference room. We just have a handful of the brands that either work with us directly or indirectly. So we're very fortunate. We rely very heavily on our customers' successes and their customers. And that's about all I have to say about that. Any questions?
Hey, Bryan.
Hey.
Quick question. At the end of the day, were you able to get back to your sort of high watermark production level with less employees?
That's a good question. I don't think we've reached it yet, and it's still a work in progress because we still got some equipment that's coming, and we still got some improvements that are being made. But we've made big strides. We haven't quite hit that watermark yet, but we've made significant strides in that direction. Thank you for asking.
Bryan, I want to say great presentation and congratulations on everything that you guys have been doing in the automation and innovation. When you doubled down, did you see or are you surprised that the apparel business as a whole seems to be down so much in 23 after we had so much talk as an industry about reshoring in this hemisphere?
That's a good question too. I'm glad you brought that up. So the markets that we serve, Cameron, automotive interiors, flame retardant fabrics that go into career workwear or military. We do a lot of Berry Amendment stuff that goes to the military. We do a lot of team sport uniform fabrics. We do some specialty made in USA retail type stuff. Some of those segments are really soft, and some of them have seen no change. So I won't say that we have witnessed the same level of drop off as the big guys have, because we're kind of small and kind of nimble, and we know how to chase an order when we really, really need to. But yeah, I am surprised that, and I think it kind of all started when there was a news release back in the summer that suddenly the 3-packs of basic underwear, briefs, undershirts at Target and Walmart had suddenly stopped selling at the level that they've been selling at for a few years, and that was like the beginning of the whole textile industry beginning to just seemingly slow down. And so we have seen, in talking with others in the industry, and we've got some customers, and some of our business has softened up. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a surprise at the suddenness of how it dropped off late last year. And hoping that it's going to start turning. I mean, we notice it affects us, affects a number of our customers. And we have not seen a big improvement, but there's optimism. There's certainly
That's good to hear.
I want to thank Bryan